Hey fellow founders, how you going? Welcome to another video. In this video, I'm answering the question, how long does it take to become a competent full stack developer capable of building and launching your own product into the market? I'm specifically answering this question through the lens of someone who wants to build and launch their own product because I'm talking to other startup founders, not necessarily someone who wants to go and take a role as a junior developer, because I believe that in order to do that, the skill set might not be quite as high as what I'm about to explain, and you'd be able to get away with less time invested. Now, there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to this question, so I'm going to share two examples, two ends of the spectrum, which I think give a good overview of the amount of time that you're going to need to invest. Before I do that, I'm going to share some context about myself so that you can kind of see the other life events and life pressures that I have and how that impacted my time, because that also has an impact on the overall time frame. So I'm in my 30s. I've had multiple businesses in the past. I have a wife, I have 3 kids, and I also have a full-time job. And I had a full-time job throughout the whole time that I've been learning to code. Now, I wasn't able to work or study full-time, as I mentioned, but instead what I did was dedicate 3 nights a week and around 5 to 6 hours each night on those 3 nights in order to learn how to code. So with that context out of the way, and also, sorry to add that I learned predominantly through online tutorials and videos, I believe from my experience, you can become a somewhat competent developer within the space of about 4 to 6 months. The caveat is, though, that you are always going to be kind of following along, so to speak. You're going to understand a lot of the core concepts and you're going to know how to build things. You're just not going to be able to deviate too far from what you've learned from these videos. Now, is that sufficient enough to go out and build your own custom solution end-to-end that's different and unique? The answer is no, in my opinion. That journey is much, much longer. And in fact, it took me around 2.5 to 3 years, I feel, to reach that fully that stage where I felt fully competent and able of building something that was differentiated and unique, and move me away and outside of this kind of follow-along tutorial-based path. So, depending on the depth and the complexity of your solution, could you watch some YouTube videos? Could you do some courses and learn enough that you could follow along and tweak some stuff and make an application that's slightly different to what you saw in a video within that 4 to 6 month period? 100% yes. Could you even go on and potentially sell or monetize that solution? Yes. But is it going to be enough to do something that's differentiated and really compelling? The answer is probably no. So there's always going to be a limitation, I feel, on that shorter time frame of 4 to 6 months. Over the kind of 2 to 2.5 years that followed, I learned a lot more skills. I tried and tested out a lot more things, and I moved out of tutorial hell and started building my own applications by reading documentation, looking up answers or solutions to problems that I had without having to hit rewind and rewatch how someone else was writing code. And that's a much different experience and a much higher level of competency in my view. But that said, today I'm still not a highly competent developer who's going to be able to walk in and get a job tomorrow if I wanted to, because I don't have that real world experience. I've taken that path because I wanted to build the solution for myself, and I wasn't doing this necessarily through the lens of going to get a job for someone else. The other route, so that kind of gives my experience, my spectrum, 4 to 6 months to follow along, 2.5, 3 years to really be at that level to build something yourself when you're doing around, I'd say 10 to 15 hours a week of study. Contrast that to another situation. I have brought on board a contract developer who now helps me with Oqire, which is my startup, and basically helps build out the functionality. They took a much different path in life with their journey to learn how to be a developer, because their life circumstances were different. They were in their 20s, they had no wife or partner, they had no kids, they had no other external commitments, and instead what they went and did was a boot camp, and in addition to the boot camp, complemented that with their own personal study and effectively dedicated 6 months of their life to learning and acquiring the skills necessary. And they weren't just doing it Monday to Friday. They were spending weekends, they were spending time after the boot camp learning and honing their craft. And they reached that level of competency within that kind of 6-month window of time, maybe extend it a little bit further, 3 months post-course to kind of build a few apps, test a few things out and get to that next level. But it was obviously a much shorter window of time, although the total number of hours, if you calculate them, probably ends up around the same. So if you are someone who's looking to build a startup and wants to learn how to code and do it yourself, there's the kind of 2 paths that present themselves to you. Now, in some situations, your life circumstances will dictate that you have to follow my approach. In other situations or circumstances, you might have the ability to dedicate yourself full time. The only other thing I'd say to that, though, is that if you do have a job, think about, the runway that having a job can buy you if you're able to learn how to code on the side. So what I mean by that is if you quit your job, throw yourself head first into coding, you might become competent in 6 months, but do you still have the personal savings to go another 6 or 9 months without any revenue from your product while you build the solution and start marketing it? Or think about, could you do some contract work or freelance work to keep that money coming in so that you don't become someone who knows how to code but then don't have the financial means to actually spend the time that you need on your own projects that you want to get out there in the market. Anyway, that's my experience. That's my 2 cents. Comment down below if you're learning to code or have learnt to code and what your journey was like. I'd love to connect with other fellow founders or developers and hear their experience. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.